Hi, this is Dr. Jim Turnage in San Diego, California, and welcome to Wonderful Wednesdays. We've been here at the Heart Space for 14 years, each Wednesday night at 7 p.m. This is a very special night at the Heart Space as we continue a brand new class series based on Joel Goldsmith's powerful book, The Infinite Way. In the next weeks, we will explore and practice Goldsmith's wisdom acquired over a lifetime of dedication and devotion to God and the spiritual path. Welcome. So welcome to week 3 of The Infinite Way and the Wisdom of Joel Goldsmith. This week, of course, we're going to have the review, and we're going to talk about chapters 7 and 8 in the book, Prayer and Metaphysical Healing. Our goals are our usual goals: study of basic metaphysics, and particularly for this class, seeing the Christ in all we encounter and within ourselves. And we're going to do this through letting Spirit express itself, and then once we get this wisdom, to share it with others. And there's Joel, a younger Joel. He was a Christian Science practitioner whose father and he himself experienced personal physical curing or healing using Christian Science principles. He ultimately wrote called this path, the spiritual path, The Infinite Way, which is the name of the book we're studying. And he said that there's a way that we can do this and rid ourselves of sin and poverty and sickness, and it's through the exchanging our material sense of existence with a conscious life. Our conscious life is spiritual. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word never changes. The Word, however, becomes manifest or becomes demonstrated. And he reminds us this is not a spiritual universe and a material world. It's one universe, which is a spiritual universe. And then we talked a little bit about our own spiritual paths and Joel's spiritual path. And I think this secret here is that, you start someplace in anything you do in life. But I think the secret is these synchronicity events, these things that just seem to happen. The miraculous things that seem to happen. In retrospect, they had to happen in order for you to be on your spiritual path, the particular path that you're on. And ultimately, through study, we gain illumination, and through a measure of illumination, we decide to share this with others. Why use this? I have no idea. For some reason, I just like this graphic for this. God does not create or control material affairs, despite what you see in football games and sports games when they pray to God to defeat their enemy. And my kingdom is not of this world. Spiritual consciousness overcomes the world, both the pains and the pleasures. And this is the two-sided thing in both in Buddhism, but also in the Infinite Way and metaphysical practice, is that you're not trying to get rid of all pain, pain and have only pleasures. Because what you're actually discovering is that neither one of these are your true self, your true life. This is the physical. And this is a specific statement he makes in the book. Learn to reject worldly thoughts. And that seems counterintuitive, but the idea is you can change the way you look at things. You can change the worldly thoughts and exchange them for a spiritual experience only. And at this point, some people say, but I got real problems here. Enough of this spiritual stuff. And the idea is if you persist with this, the outpicturing of your life starts changing as well. It may not be what you expected, but it starts changing as well into something that is more wonderful. And of Course in Miracles looks at this from a different standpoint, but I think the point in A Course in Miracles, as it is in The Infinite Way, is that the normal state of things is the miraculous. The absence of the appearance of miracles is abnormal. The appearance of miracles is the normal state of things. I just like to use this graphic as much as possible. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. We're not exactly sure who first said that, but this is this Jesuit priest was the one that's attributed to most often, Pierre de Talleyrand Desjardins. Immortality is attained in proportion as the personal sense is overcome. So the more we get rid of our personal sense, then we start experiencing our true self, the wondrous state of things. So we went through chapter 3 and chapter 4, spiritual illumination and the Christ consciousness. Yeah. What we behold through our senses is not the reality of things. And that's one of the discoveries I had when I was studying A Course in Miracles, the first year, is that my physical senses and my experience of the world were completely different after the first year. And you think, well, you can rely on your senses, right? You can rely on your senses to not be the truth of things. And they will change. Your physical experience will change as you start seeing the underlying truth, whether it's through A Course in Miracles or the Infinite Way or almost any spiritual path. So we've talked about this many times. Any thought about helping or fixing or correcting or changing the material picture is really needs to be relinquished or surrendered. Because if we're going to actually see the truth in things, we have to let that go. The idea that we're going to change or fix, rearrange, if we're going to see the ever-present reality. And this was not in the book, but this is one of the basic ideas in all these spiritual paths and in the Infinite Way. Without illumination, we struggle. You know, we can go through we can chant, we can do all the mechanical things of any spiritual path. And we have to keep going until we experience some measure of illumination. Once we see the light, then our struggling decreases. And first, when you get illumination, the first glimpse of illumination and light, that you get a sense of peace very often. And then you develop a confidence as you continue to practice, and this assurance that there's a path ahead of you that you can count on. And then we talked about the two concepts of the New Covenant and the Old Covenant. The New Covenant is basically grace. It's the at one moment the attainment of unity with God. Grace is unmerited favor, and atonement is unity with God. Yeah, we do not live by acquiring, gaining, or achieving in the New Covenant. We live by grace. And did we talk about Christianity and how often Christians forget about that they actually are living under the New Covenant? It's disturbing because very often they think, well, I have to stay in the Old Covenant. I have to keep earning and sacrificing and giving and achieving and gaining and earning, salvation. And that's not what Christianity says at all. It's what's the joke? Once you're dipped 3 times, never dry. Once you're saved, that's it. It's done. You don't have to go back and atone and kill the fatted sheep, or you don't have to do any sacrifice. You might want to live a life that's different if you really are changed in your heart, but you are saved by grace through faith. And that's the New Covenant. The Old Covenant, however, is this continued idea of being saved by sacrifice and attainment of something, of earning something. And even in metaphysics, if you're stuck with this idea that I have to do some specific pursuit, some specific path, and I have to do things exactly right in order to be able to earn my place in the universe, that is the Old Covenant, even in metaphysics. And I prefer the New Covenant, which is that we always live in grace. God always loves us perfectly no matter what. We don't have to earn it. We're saved by grace and atonement at one moment. And there's the Old Covenant. Tells him to kill his son, so he decides He's going to do that to be observant, and then the angel comes and says, not so fast. Don't have to do that. Moses comes down from the mountain with the tablets and says, here's the law. You had to adhere to the law no matter what. It's interesting that Jesus said, he didn't say forget the law. He didn't say forget your morals, forget your ethics. He said, it's like you're saved. If you believe that this can happen for you, in this case through Jesus Christ, then it's done. It's already done. It would be a good idea if you were a moral person, if you were an ethical person, but that's not how you're saved. We're saved by grace and atonement. All right. Any questions about the New Covenant, the Old Covenant? This is very controversial in Christianity right now, and particularly in evangelical circles. If you talk to them, it almost sounds like heresy when you say, look, you're not here to attain anything. If you're a Christian, you're here to attain your salvation through belief that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and all your sins are erased through that belief. They still want to cling to things they pick out of the Old Testament, however, and the Old Covenant. And so I like this statement in Joel's book. Spiritual illumination enables us to relax. It enables us to relax our personal efforts and rely more and more on the divinity unfolding and revealing itself. It's not a bunch of effort that's necessary. It's actually just unfolding before us and becoming aware of it. It's realization. In the third step of spiritual mind treatment, the third step is realization. It doesn't say putting all the nuts and bolts together and forcing it to appear. It says you realize that it's already there. It was always there. And you just got your consciousness to the place where you could realize it, where you could recognize it. When you're doing a demonstration, the word demonstrate sounds like it's a volitional thing on your part. It's not. Demonstration is the realization that this was always there. And God, doesn't hide anything from us. It's God's good pleasure to give us the kingdom, everything. And so the divinity unfolds and reveals itself through us and as us. This is another one of those things counterintuitive, right? What you give, if you are unwilling to give something, that will be withheld with you. Even what you have will be withheld from you. Whatever you withhold, even that which you have will be withheld from you. So if you want to receive, you have to give. Giving away our food, we get more strength. By bestowing clothing on others, we gain more beauty. By founding abodes of purity and truth, we acquire great treasure.
This is extremely interesting, that last slide and this one too, because it is counterintuitive. You're taught all your life to go out there and conquer the world, to go and find. If you want something if you really want something, you have to go and try. You have to fight for it. You have to go out and get it. And this is the complete opposite. You just let it go. Let it go.
Yeah.
And it will come to you in its right time. This one too, this one says, be the extension, be God's extension, just give, constantly give food, love. Everything, just give of yourself in every single way and you will get a whole bunch. And it's so true. So
exactly.
True.
Exactly.
And I like
it. Yeah, it plays is right. And I like the other part of that too, in the Christian scripture that says, even that which you have will be taken away from you. If you get the mindset of holding and grasping and trying to get, even that which you have will be taken from you. It's that spirit of flow and giving and recognizing that all is available at all times. And it's not yours anyway. It's just the divine flow that is flowing through you and around you. And that, and we can appreciate the nice things, appreciate the food, appreciate the friends and the weather, and we can appreciate the air that we breathe, and we want to share it. Just give it away. Give it away. Whatever it is that you think you need, give it away. You think you don't have enough, give it away. and then see what happens. Be amazed.
Well, I think you have to come from a point where it isn't as if you have to come from a point where you want to share.
Yeah.
Because that's really what giving is all about. You want to share whatever you have with someone else.
Yeah.
It could be almost anything, but if you're going to be saying, no, this is mine, and I've tried so hard to find it, and I have it now, and it's mine, I don't want to share it with anybody, then that too will disintegrate and go away, or it'll be stolen from you, whatever.
Yeah.
It's more of a cooperation with the universe.
Exactly. Because it's that, when it's wanting the flow, we're just the flow.
A what?
We're just the flow of the universe.
Oh, the flow. Okay.
If we get out there and start struggling and think we got to, do the right, swimming strokes and, fighting the current, we avail ourselves nothing, because the flow is where the energy is. The flow is where the goodness is and the grace. And when we start to hold on to things, it's tough to hold on against the current of the flow and try to, I'm going to get all this and I'm going to hold on to it because it's mine. And nothing is ours, not a thing. So we might as well enjoy it and say, wow, it's wonderful. Just keep giving it away. I'll tell you, there's just so many times in my life that I had no idea how anything would work out. None. I was doing things just to be doing things. But then when it would work out, it usually had very little to do with what I was actually doing. It just worked out because I let it go. And then we talked about namaste. And this is really important, obviously. And it's seeing the Christ consciousness in everyone we meet, including yourself. If you look in the mirror and you can't see the Christ, more prayer and meditation. If it's easier to find it in those around you than yourself, lots of prayer and meditation. And I just love this picture of Obama. Namaste. I bow to the divine in you. Spiritual consciousness is the release from personal effort as we find the Christ within us as a present reality. As a present reality. We let go of it, release our effort, and realize the Christ within us. So our task is the realization of the Christ of our own consciousness at all times. Here's Carl Jung, a scientist, psychiatrist, who fortunately became pretty insane later in his life. It's really great. He started seeing things and hearing things that we'd probably give him antipsychotics for now. But fortunately, he would unlikely take an antipsychotic, and they didn't really have them when he was around. And he said, if we were all to live to fulfill divine will within, we would need no armies, no police, no diplomacy, no politics, no banks. We would have a meaningful life and not what we have now, madness. And so that's what he was looking for toward the end of his life. Tonight, we're going to talk about prayer, which we do a lot. And so a lot of this is a review for us, but still worth it. And metaphysical healing, which we've talked about before, but it's important to reinforce. Any questions about the review? Any new ideas? No? Okay, good.
I shouldn't speak for everybody else. Sorry.
Okay. So let's go ahead. So why aren't your prayers answered?
Why aren't?
Yeah, why aren't your prayers answered? It's a trick question. Go ahead.
I have maybe an answer for that. I think that when you, well, this is what I learned in this past, on my journey recently, that if you pray for something specific, it's not the reason you should be praying. you should be praying for how you feel. So let me say it a different way. If you're praying for, if you're going nuts in the head because you can't get something, because you want something specific, then you shouldn't pray for that something specific, but to have peace in your life.
Mm-hmm.
That's the underlying problem that you have, that your mind is chaotic and your mind is everywhere, and you have no peace. You're always constantly going, and you're not feeling well. You're not feeling well as a result. And that's the problem, not that you're not getting the specific thing that you want. And
Yeah.
I was told, not indirectly, I was told that by a minister out here. And I said, oh, it works. I tried it. It works. It works. Pray for peace of mind, and you get what you want. Well, almost, but it gets better.
Well, let me hit the button here. So unanswered prayer is about, in James 4:3, it says, ye ask and receive not, because you ask amiss. In some translations, you don't pray arightly, that ye may consume it upon your lusts. So it's what you're saying there. You think you need this, but it's because that you pray for this specific thing, that you're trying to satisfy some lack that you believe you have, some limitation that you have, that your prayer is, quote, not answered. But as you say, it gets answered. If you earnestly continue to pursue, the truth, your answer will come. It may not look like what you were praying for.
Well, it's just that what you're praying for is not exactly what you need at the moment. What you need is peace of mind.
Peace of
And
mind.
that's what you should be praying for.
You could be praying for that. And so in Matthew 6:25, later on, it says, therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life. Here the disciples all worried about what they're going to eat and what they're going to wear and where they're going to stay and, how are we going to survive? And he says, what does he say to that? Take no thought for your life. What you'll eat, what you'll drink, what you'll put on, what's going to happen to your body. Is not the life more than meat and the body than raiment? And it says, consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not. Behold the fowls of the air. They sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Take no thought for the morrow. And this is about the mustard seed, right? Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. In other words, right thinking and right acting. And all these things shall be added unto you. So once again, the tiniest seed of faith grows into the beautiful tree, the mustard tree. Except this isn't a mustard tree. But I couldn't find a mustard tree growing, so this will have to be a mustard tree.
Is there such a thing, a mustard tree, not a mustard bush?
Oh yeah, yeah. They're trees. They're kind of squatty, but they can be huge. They can be gigantic, and they all come from one tiny seed. One tiny seed. You can do cuttings, obviously, and do it, but you can grow a mustard tree from one tiny mustard seed. And that was his parable about the mustard seed. Any questions about the prayer aspects? Because Emmy said it right, and I've talked about this many times before. That's why I tell the story about my $19,647.23. How specific could I get? Praying for an exact amount of money, and I ended up with $200 and change short. It did not actually solve the underlying problem, which was, I thought, was not being able to pay the bills. But it was not about not being able to pay the bills. It was about lack of faith. That's what it was about. Because I could have picked a different number that would have been more than I needed, but I didn't focus on that. I focused on the exact number, not what I really needed, which was faith. Now about metaphysical healing.
So how long did it take you to figure out that you didn't pray for the right thing?
when I was still short of money. And because in real time, those bills are coming in. And then everybody was going, how great this is. I mean, my practitioner, my minister, they're all going, this is so wonderful. It's a miracle. You got $19,400 and something, And I was like, and I was buying into it. It took me a while. It took me a few weeks as the bills started rolling in, and I still was short. And then that's when I realized I was not praying rightly. I was praying amiss. What I really need to pray for which is my prayer, which is my life is my ministry is my life. I'm fully supported in my ministry. I'm fully supported in my life. What does that mean? I have no idea. I have no what number that means. I don't know what activity that means. But it's what I want to see is that. So yeah, it did take a little while before it hit me. Fortunately, I was already a practitioner then. Let's see, this was 2013. Yeah, I was already a practitioner. And I should have known better, right? But I was still stuck in the idea of spiritual mind treatment as some sort of magic trick. And when in reality, I'm being fully supported the whole time. So it can take a while to realize this. So I keep mentioning it over and over again. And Emmy, you're experiencing it in your own life.
Weekly.
Yeah. And it's like, they're the principles. We know them. We study them. We rehearse them in our minds and our hearts. And then everything that doesn't look like that shows up. It doesn't have to be horrible, but it'll show up, and it's in just a little way that will show the conflict. It'll show the discontinuity. And then you have an opportunity then to go, oh, I know this one. I know this one. I did this before, $19,647.23. I did this one before. I got to pray rightly. I can't keep praying amiss. I have to let that go and let this be revealed. Go for what it is I really want, which is, like you say, peace. I want to experience peace. I want to experience that I'm in right occupation, right attitude, right heart, and then the details of how it works out is none of my business. None of my business at all.
Letting go is the key figure, the key words. Let go, let go, let go.
Let go, exactly. Get your hands off the wheel. Get your feet off the pedals. It's one of these. They finally have these auto drive cars. You gotta let it go, because we are terrible drivers. We convince ourselves that we're great drivers, and we are not. In the rectitude of the universe, we are terrible drivers. Fortunately, the universe and this creation is so wonderful and so finely intertwined and crafted, we can't mess it up. We cannot stop the universe. We cannot change the law. We cannot see the law. We cannot see the effect of the law. We cannot see the love. But when we let go, like you say, we let go, when we surrender and it starts showing up, then we call that a miracle. And once again, the absence of the appearance of miracles is abnormal.
It happens. It happens. I can tell you stories. Not online though. Not I'll tell you later.
Yeah, since it is being recorded and it's on YouTube, don't use names if you can when we're talking, so because we don't want to violate people's confidences and things like that. But I changed the names of people and some of the situations so that you can't figure out who it actually is. Yeah, and this flows perfectly into metaphysical healing, because all of us have been involved in healing work, all of us. And I used to say when I would do talks, any place I would talk, I assume everyone out there is a practitioner, because today you're going to realize that you have the same consciousness that any practitioner has. And when you allow that consciousness to unfold, you will see the miracles just like anybody else would, no matter how many years of training or experience they have. And metaphysical healing, that's what it's about. It's that consciousness. This is what gets in the way, though. Any thought of helping, healing, correcting, changing the material picture must be relinquished. Let's let go of it, in order that we may see the ever-present reality. If we're going to have that revealed to us, to see the healing, to see the curing, to see the love, to see the absence of suffering, to see the joy, we have to get rid of it. We can't focus on the picture. To get away from the picture. Healing, this is the one that this ends up being criticized a lot about new thought and new agey kind of stuff. Healings are always in proportion to our understanding of the truth about God, man, idea, and body. Healing has nothing to do with someone out there called a patient. So this is where the magical kind of stuff we get criticized for. But this is essential. It's when he's looking at the whatever the problem appears to be, some sort of physical reality. We have to let that go. Also, like Goldsmith said, he didn't even want to know the patient's name. He barely did cash the checks though, and take the money. But he actually didn't want to hear the story. He didn't want to know their name, because once he knew that all was well, it's done. So Goldsmith says, what is man? And the answer is that man is idea, body, and manifestation. So when we see a healthy body, a beautiful flower, a tree, we are seeing a good concept of the ideal body, flower, tree. But when we see aging, ailing body, withered flower, decaying tree, we're beholding an erroneous concept of the divine idea. The divine idea is the healthy body, the beautiful tree, the light, the ideal. So Ernest Holmes, founder of religious science, went to see a patient in the hospital. He walked in the room and saw a sick man in bed. He immediately left and called his practitioner. This is I believe this is actually true. It's attested to in a lot of places, because he knew that if he saw a sick person there, he was of no use to that person. He needed to be able to walk in there and see only the perfect whole person. So when we're doing healing, who do we treat first? Ourselves, always, and probably continuously, really. You just go in there and they're telling their story and blah, 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 blah. And inside you're going, just holding the perfect truth of everything, the presence of God, the holiness, the perfection in all things. So
wouldn't it be more accurate to maybe pray over or pray over a picture of a healthy body? A picture, not the presence of the sick body.
If you could see that, that's a tricky thing. Because you want the ideal, you want the perfect.
Because the picture is the perfect when they were in perfect health. But I'm talking about a photograph rather than the actual person in a bed.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't do that, because my idea of what's perfect is, for that person is always going to be less than the one most wonderful thing that person can be. You see what I mean? Mm-mm. Yeah. I don't want to limit myself to a picture in time of that person. I want to see just, it has nothing to do with the age or the appearance of, deterioration of physical health. I want to see just the glory and the wonder of that person that is unlimited by physical body, unlimited by time, unlimited by thought, that is neither negative or overly positive. I want to see just the wonder of that person. beyond any physical concept.
We are as God created us.
Yeah. And then we're busy undoing.
No, but that brings a point. If you pronounce a body as being whole,
Who's
perfect,
speaking?
and complete the way it is, that's where the body is at this point, and it is perfect right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that, and their true self is not what I'm seeing. Their true self is not what I'm seeing with my eyes and my senses. That the true self is the Christ. I'm actually seeing the Christ, not the withered arm, not the strong arm, not the beautiful face or the wrinkled face. I'm seeing the Christ. And that may out picture as, curing of the pneumonia, or in the case of Joel and Joel Goldsmith and his father. It may be, in a clearing of the mind. It may be in relationships being apparently healed. It may out picture like that. But I think starting from the perfect, the Christ consciousness, the perfect self, is the starting point. And just looking deeper and deeper into that. In the beginning, I might see the person. And then the more I'm looking, I'm seeing something wonderful inside, which is the Christ. That's how I would orient this. Just practically. This is always a tough one. This is actually I forget which year it's in. I think it's in year 2 of practitioner training. But the person I prayed for didn't get better. What went wrong? And there's all these explanations about what went wrong. And Joel says the healer alone must accept responsibility for healing and never try to shift the blame for non-healing onto the person who asked for help. Why does he say that?
I don't know why.
It's the absolute belief that he has that we're not trying to fix anything. And when the practitioner is still stuck in the appearance of things, and things don't get quote better for the client or the patient, it's probably because of the practitioner's consciousness, not the patient. And so we want to that's why we always treat ourselves first. And even during the treatment, if we start wandering into something that is not the truth, that we do whatever we need to do to get back in truth again. Now they will say, lots of people say, well, but the patient, the client, they can interfere with the healing. That's probably true. If somebody shows up with gold bars outside your door and you believe in poverty and you won't open your front door, perhaps the practitioner wasn't praying for the right thing. Maybe it wasn't about gold bars. Maybe it wasn't about the pneumonia. Maybe it wasn't about any objective thing like that. Maybe it was the emptiness in the person, the lack of faith. And by implication that the practitioner was not holding that wholeness and perfection of the client or the patient. And oh, by the way, the gold bars are there. Or oh, by the way, the infection is cured. So he's pretty strict about this idea. The healer has to accept responsibility for healing, which means that you work on your own consciousness. There's a bunch of interesting things in this chapter. This is a challenging chapter. The body's not self-acting. It has no intelligence or activity of its own. That seems counterintuitive. it's governed harmoniously by spiritual power. Once again, it's a spiritual universe, not a physical universe. The physical universe is a side effect of spiritual consciousness. Understanding that I am individual, infinite spiritual consciousness, embodying every right idea and governing it harmoniously brings forth health, harmony, home, employment, recognition, peace, joy, and dominion. And so once again, focusing on the practitioner's consciousness and our own consciousness and allowing those other things to be the outpicturing of our consciousness. Not a lot of people wanted to follow this, the infinite way. Because it's pretty strict, huh? No person is ever the Christ. The activity of truth in individual consciousness constitutes the only Christ. The truth in the individual consciousness is the Christ. In the capital T. Jesus revealed the nothingness of matter. It unfolded as a healing consciousness before which sin and disease disappeared and death was overcome. So when Jesus goes to see Lazarus, what did he say? Did he do a bunch of prayers and they all sang and chanted?
No.
What did he say?
He went and told him to get up.
Yeah, get up. He revealed the nothingness of matter. And disease and sin and even death were overcome. So let the activity of truth in your consciousness be the first and last and only concern. So that's why a practitioner is responsible for the healing, not the patient, not the client. And the Christ of you will also reveal itself in an individual, infinite way. So that's our work always, is to go back to that individual consciousness and spend our time there. We're able to do healing only in proportion to our realization of the spiritual nature of the universe. Another reason why prayers fail. Because we're not praying correctly, and part of the not praying correctly is the spiritual nature, our own spiritual nature outpicturing in ways we didn't expect and don't appreciate and don't want to be. That which we term our humanhood must be still so as to be a clear transparency through which infinite individual self may appear and reveal itself. And I've told, so this is Niagara Falls, right? What is it? He says, there's no Niagara Falls. There's Lake Erie. There's no Niagara Falls. This is Lake Erie. And we are the same. There is the one life and the one mind and the one consciousness. And we focus on something that we want to call a miracle, or we want to call an obstacle, when in reality, we have Lake Erie. We don't have just that wondrous one thing. We have all the power. Even if we are only focusing right now on what appears to be the unusual. So that's what the 7 sacred words are about. God is my only source and supply. There isn't anything else. There's nothing else. This is about physical curing and healing. Right. God is my only source and supply. Well, this is about broken relationships. God is my only source and supply. Where else would I go? Yeah, we do all these other things that look like we're doing something, but ultimately the only real source is God. That's our source. So Mary Baker Eddy, nice picture of her, said there is no reality, disease, or sin while materia medica seeks to overcome or cure disease and theology struggles to overcome sin. That's Joel. But he's getting this from Christian Science. And Mary Baker Eddy said, death is a misunderstanding. It's a misunderstanding. Remember, all curing ultimately ends in physical death, and metaphysical healing, inevitable outcome is eternal life. So curing, there's nothing wrong with curing. I earn my living doing it. And it's can be quite interesting and entertaining, but ultimately it will fail if your judge is whether you live or die in the physical body. But in metaphysical healing, the outcome is eternal life. Ultimately. But how do we do this? Once again, take no thought for the morrow. Quit worrying about tomorrow. Why? Because when the senses and reasoning of mind are silent and we adopt a listening attitude, things will be revealed to us. What you need to know will be revealed. When and how you need to act will be revealed. So I put this in here because of my fortune cookie story. So when I was applying for medical school and doing all these pre-med classes, I came up with a magical routine that I would come home from these particular nights studying in the library for hours and hours for my pre-med classes. And then I would come home and I would go and eat Chinese food at a particular Chinese restaurant. And I ordered the same thing every time. And then I got the fortune cookie. And the fortune cookie would tell me things. And they were almost always just wonderful things. And then one night I did the whole thing, the ritual. I got there, opened up the fortune cookie, and there was no fortune. And I need a defective fortune cookie here. I need a new fortune cookie. Well, they gave me one and didn't apply to anything. And I realized that I had bought into this magical idea of spiritual healing. And I was not praying rightly. I was praying amiss. And I had to give up this idea of a fortune cookie. Because what I needed to know will be revealed, and when and how it's revealed, it will be revealed at the right time. That's none of my business. All the other stuff that I'm doing, taking the classes, talking to people, asking them for, to write, references for me, that's all just entertainment. It gives you something to do, while what you need to do is being revealed. What, when, and how it will be revealed is none of your business. So always remember the fortune cookie and give up on the little magic tricks and allow Spirit to reveal to you what you need to know and how and when you need to take care of it. Never, and this is Joel Goldsmith, never let vain conceit or a belief in personal power keep you from this sacred experience. Be willing, be receptive, and be still. And of course, the Psalm 46 says, be still and know that I am God. So once again, it'll be revealed to you at the right time, in the right way. And this is the story. It's in the book, and I've told the story lots of times. This is about the young woman who kept having fevers, high fevers, and we could find nothing wrong with her. She went to infectious disease doctors. We did CAT scans. We did all sorts of testing. Usually when you have fevers like that, it's from an infection. When you can't find the infection, it's usually a malignancy. It's usually a cancer. We found nothing. Finally, she was having real high fever, not feeling well, and I put her in the hospital. And I ran all the tests again and could find nothing. And so I asked her again, said, about this fever, let's go back again. When did this start happening? And she told me. And I said, what do you think it is? I don't know. I said, she said, I'm kind of surprised because I'm a healer. I'm kind of surprised. I'm a healer. And yet I keep having these fevers. And I said, you're a healer. What tradition do you come from? How were you trained? Were you anointed? She says, no, I don't have any training. It's a gift. I have a gift. And I said, well, who are you healing? She says, well, I'm healing a guy who has a malignancy, has a blood cancer. And it's very common to have fever when you have these cancers. And I said, did this start happening somewhere around the time you were healing him? And she said, yeah, well, yeah. In retrospect, yeah, that's true. And I said, let me talk to you about healing, my beliefs about healing, that I myself do nothing. She's Jewish, secular Jewish, but I said, in the Christian scripture, it says, I myself do nothing. It's the Father within doeth the works. And we need to be a clear vessel that just everything passes through us. We're doing nothing. And she says, well, I don't know. I think I have a power. And I said, I need to ask you to stop doing that. I need to ask you to stop healing this guy. So she did. And what happens?
She gets better.
Fever goes away. Because if you make sun tea and you don't put the tea in there, the water's not going to heat up. You can't just put the water there in a perfect clear vessel with water in it and expect enough heat in there to make tea and then put the tea in. You got to put the tea in there. You have to have the water absorbing the heat and the light. That's what produces the heat and makes the tea. And my theory about this young woman is that she was not a pure, clear vessel. Her ego was in the way.
Been an empath also. Empaths tend to pick up what's going on with their patients.
Yeah.
But she had to. What she didn't do was clear herself before she started, like you said
Exactly.
at the beginning, and to just protect herself.
Right.
You have to let that stuff go. That's not ours.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing it. We are simply present to witness the miracle. That's it. It gives the patient a place to focus. They can talk about us or the healing power or whatever. Who cares? It just gets them to the place where they have greater and greater faith that they're healed. Well, we're not doing anything. We're just there. And so I use this as an example. If people think they're healers, they need to do a lot of individual work to let all that stuff go. So I had a patient last week who killed herself or tried to kill herself in front of me. Stabbed herself with a knife.
This happened last week. Did it happen last week?
Last week, yeah. And very disturbing. And since then, I've had to do a lot of work about letting that go. About letting that go. And it was quite interesting because in the old days, people would, if that happened, nobody would say anything to each other. The nurses, the doctors wouldn't say anything to each other. It's different now, though. I talked to the nurses and said, how are you feeling? How are you reacting? Do you think you did everything you could to help this person? Now, the woman, this person didn't die, but still, it's pretty dramatic. And I had other doctors come up to me and say, are you doing okay? I thought that was very nice. Just the idea they were compassionate and were concerned about my own reaction. And so clearing that out, I'm not doing anything here. Even when it looks like I'm doing something medical or physical, I'm not doing the healing. I'm present for the healing. So it is very important in metaphysical healing. This is an important principle. We have to spread the word. People that think they have the power, they don't have power. There's only one power. And we have to keep reminding ourselves. I know a lot of stuff, and every day I learn more stuff. I learn more facts, and I learn more scientific things every day. And that still does not change the fact that there is only one power and one life and one source of all good. And I have to remind myself again and again and again of that, because the illusion is strong. The ego illusion is very powerful. If there were a Satan, I don't believe in a Satan, but if there were a Satan, that's it. It's the ego. And it's a strong illusion. It'll trick you because you'll do things believing you have a power, and that you're using something scientific or some other power, and you'll see things happen and it seems to be connected to something you did, and your ego will grow, and your separation from God is even greater. So we let that go, and well, isn't that interesting? That happened. So yeah, let it go. Any questions about the things we covered this week? I'm trying to keep. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Good reminders today. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, I know we've all been doing this a long time. We've all done these things a long time. It's ever present, and I'm reminded every day about these principles. And just when we think we can get away with missing a day without prayer, meditation, and surrender, we realize that we're not going to experience the kingdom as we could. What is it? I forget which was the violinist. Was it Heifetz? It said, "If I miss a day of practice," the violinist said, "If I miss a day of practice, my audience won't notice it. If I miss 2 days of practice, the audience won't notice it, and my manager might notice. If I miss 3 days of practice, my audience will notice it, but I always notice it. I always notice it. I can't miss a day. Since I can't miss a day, I have to practice every day. Because we'll forget. We'll fall right back into it again." When the Dalai Lama's brother died, who went with him to the monastery when he was 4, he experienced grief. But he's the Dalai Lama, and he's a Buddhist, priest, and he knew what to do. He knew to practice. He knew what to do, and we know what to do. We know exactly what to do, and as we keep doing it, and encourage others to do the same thing. If every day you share with somebody, no matter what their problem is, if you share with them the way out of this is the spiritual path. That's the way out of this. Some of them will be interested in that, some of them won't. But you don't know. You don't know who it might be. I think, well, that's not very practical. And you go, okay, not the right time, not the right place.
That's what I like about the Course in Miracles, because this is a practice you do every single day.
Exactly.
And then you review it every, so many chapters. So
Yeah.
you do it over and over and over, because you do forget the incidentals, the details. So it's always good to go back, and they force you to go back and study the same thing over. And it's said to you in so many different ways. You say, oh, didn't I say that before, but in a different way? It's a beautiful, beautiful book. And I'm sorry that I held off not reading it for so many years.
Well, it says in the beginning, this is a Course in Miracles. It's not optional. Only the timing is optional.
Right.
It's a required course. Only the timing is optional.
Right.
And that's what this is all about. Yeah. So if you're with somebody and they don't know what to do next, suggest simple things like whatever spiritual practice works for them.
Yeah. And
encourage them to do it regularly, which means at least twice a day.
It doesn't matter where they are, because they won't be there. In this practice that we do during our lifetime, we challenge ourselves. Maybe Christ challenges us, our Holy Spirit does, to go further, to go on to the next level, So you're always exceeding. You're always going more and more into the spiritual practice. You're learning more. The more you learn, the deeper you get.
Right. And remember too, that people are going to come to you and challenge you. They're going to come to you with problems you don't know how to solve. And that's perfect. They're angels that come to you. And you know the answer. No matter what the question is, you know the answer. God is my only source and supply. Prayer. I remember when I was preparing to take my oral examination for practitioner, to become a practitioner. And I remember my mentor said, so I'm going to ask you a difficult question. And no matter how difficult the question is, do you know what the answer is? And I said, without hearing the question, he goes, yeah. Do you know what the answer is? And I said, I don't know. He goes, yes, you do. Prayer. If you can't remember that, the quote from Ernest Holmes, if you can't remember the principle from year one, the answer is prayer. That's the only answer. Now, he was doing it as a practical way of making it through the panel, but it's the truth. There's only one source. And then how do we get to the source? We get in the presence of God and stay there through prayer, meditation, chanting, whatever works for you. That's the answer.
It's only a step in the right direction.
Always in the right direction.
Exactly.
All right, that's what I know today. So your life work this week is to notice 3 opportunities for healing. Now that's when these angels will just show up for your good. I know that in the next week, 3 people will show up for your good. They will show up with what looks like problems or concerns, and be aware that you are there for them, and resist the impulse to do anything, to fix anything. And listen and receive guidance. Be still and know that I'm God. And when that comes to you, then share that.
What you're saying is 3 people are going to come to me and with a certain situation, and
Yeah.
I'm to do nothing but listen to my guides or their guides or somebody.
Yours.
And then still need to do nothing because it's really not for me to do anything, is it?
Nothing to do. Nothing to do. Now, for licensure, they used to have this thing. Apparently, they got rid of it for practitioners. I had to write down demonstrations and give them to my minister to show that I had demonstrations from my prayer work. And I was resistant to this idea because that's not the judge of what's going on. It's prayer that's what is important. And I don't know, the patient may say, I didn't get back with my girlfriend. I wanted to get back with my girlfriend. It didn't happen. And I'm still going, God is my only source of supply. Because that's exactly what was supposed to happen. How would I know? I'm not in relationship with that person. I have nothing to do with it. So don't take anything to heart with this. These are just angels showing up for your good. It's for your practice to remind yourself you don't have to do anything. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to give advice. Probably it's better not to give advice unless they go, how do you do what you do? And you go, well, I pray. Oh, how do you do that? Oh, would you want to know how to pray? Okay. That would be a good thing to do. It has nothing directly with their quote problem, but showing them how you might pray, knowing that all is well in this situation that'd be an interesting thing to do.
But isn't meditation the more modern way of saying prayer?
It's one form of prayer. Whatever gets you in the presence of God without condition is prayer.
What I'm saying is that people nowadays don't pray, they meditate, which is the same thing, pretty much.
Yeah. When I teach meditation now to my patients who say, I don't have time for meditation and I don't know what to do. And I go, sit quietly for 5 minutes and breathe and pay attention. That's it.
Exactly.
And we'll call that meditation. And I said, but I do want you to come back in 2 weeks and tell me what you discovered. Not because I need to know, because I want them to be reinforced that in fact they were meditating and they were getting wisdom from
and they were getting homework.
And they were getting homework. That's right. And I have no idea what they prayed for. I have no idea what they meditated about. It's not important. It has nothing to do with me. but listen to your own guidance. If your own guidance says don't say anything, then don't. Just be present.
The thing is that the ego, this is what I've learned, the ego jumps in and says, oh, I have the answer. And you're blah, 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 blah. But if you're listening, you're right listening, it's telling you do nothing.
Exactly.
Do nothing. Because like you said,
Exactly.
this is their experience, this is their life, this is their journey.
Yeah.
What are they learning? It has nothing to do with you. Right?
So when that woman stopped me in the elevator lobby one time and said, "Are you a minister?"
Yeah.
In the Sharp Memorial Hospital elevator lobby, "Are you a minister?" And I said, "No. Do you need prayer?" And she says, "Yes." And I said, "All right, what's your faith tradition?" She says, "Christian." And I did Christian prayer with her on the spot. For her, it was her sister she was worried about. Showed up for my good. She wanted it in a certain form, so I did it in a certain form.
Well, you were brought up in a tradition where you had that kind of thing going on all the time. I wouldn't know what to do in that case. I really wouldn't.
Yeah, so you wouldn't use that. It'd be, I don't speak French either. So if she spoke in French, I would be like, I wouldn't do it in French. I would. So use whatever tool you have. But in that case, I did it because that would probably sound familiar to her.
Yeah.
But you
knew what to do. You knew what to do.
And that actually was, I did a 5-step spiritual mind treatment, but I did it with Christian phraseology. So that it was a language she, could appreciate. I already knew that her sister was fine. As soon as she asked, I knew her sister was fine. Before I knew her sister was having problems over at Mary Birch at the women's hospital.
Oh.
I knew that she was fine. Because that's what I got. That's when I was listening. As soon as she asked, I knew her sister was fine. And then she said, "It's a problem with my sister." What kind of problem? She's having problems with her pregnancy over at Mary Birch. And I was like, oh, that's a nice story. Whatever it was fine. It was already done. It was taken care of. But this woman needed solace. She needed reassurance.
Mm-hmm.
And she needed it like in the Christian form. So that's fine with me. Like I speak Christian. I speak fundamentalist Christian. I speak evangelical Christian. Yeah. So they will come to you for your good. They'll come to you for your good. They are angels showing up for your good, so you can practice and remind yourself that I myself do nothing. Nothing needs to be fixed here. Nothing needs to be changed here. And wait, listen to receive guidance. And like you say, maybe don't say anything. Be still, be quiet. Or, talk about Jesus.
Listen, many people, or 9 out of 10 people, all they want is an ear.
Yeah.
To listen to what's going on in them, because they feel no one is listening.
Yeah. So that's the homework, the life work for this week.
Mm-hmm.
And next week, we're going to do chapters 4 and 5 about the soul and meditation.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Last week, didn't we do 7 and 8?
We did.
So we're going backwards?
Going backwards.
Okay.
More fun that way.
For some weird... Go ahead.
Yeah, I was a little upset that you jumped chapters, and here we are. We're going backwards.
Well, it's kind of weird. When I look back in 2019 when we did this last time, I completely left out chapters 4 and 5.
So we're catching up.
What? I read the whole book that time.
I have no idea why I did that, but oh well, I just did. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, because this is your second or third pass through. Everybody's been through this at least a couple of times, right?
For me, this is the second time.
You've been through the book, this is your second time through?
Second time, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think? How is it difficult, easier, harder?
Well, since I'm not reading it from a book, but from on screen, it is a little bit more difficult.
Okay.
I like having a book in my hands,
Okay.
I don't know. it's the same, pretty much the same. Well, it is the same text, but
Yeah.
it's different. It's different. I like having a book in my hands, and I don't have my books, so go
Yeah.
figure.
So, Tommy, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was going to say, to me, it's just beautiful. It isn't that I necessarily remember being there, but it's like meeting an old friend again. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yes, it feels good to go over this again. I like it,
Yeah.
and also I can't help but compare it to my daily work that I do, the course. So
Right.
it's a good thing for me, and I have it both on my computer and in my Kindle, so that I can do it in different places.
Yeah. What I notice is that I remember the first time doing this and thinking that I could just read my 2 chapters for the week, for the class, like the night before, realizing that was a fool's errand, because I would just disappear into the text. And I was reading literally up to the last minute to walk in the class on Thursday night at 6:30, doing everything I could to read every single word. And it took all the time to do that. And I'm a pretty fast reader, but not with this stuff. Now, when I'm reading it, like Tom says, it's like an old friend. I'm going, wow. I remember what it was like when I just disappeared in that sentence. And after doing this for a few years, like a lot of years, it's just this wonderful, reassuring, enriching experience, and doesn't freak me out.
Do you miss not disappearing?
Not really.
Okay.
It was shortly after that, a class after that, I did meditation, and that's when I started really disappearing. And I can do that now whenever I want. I can melt away when I need to. Yeah, so I think this is a wonderful book. We're just jumping back. We'll jump forward. I don't know. We'll get through this. Whether 10 chapters or 11 chapters, I can. But, yeah, so that's this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being there. Really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love doing this.
Your students may come and go, but you're always there.
It's only 14 years. Just like that. It went by just like that. Well, thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us again for Wonderful Wednesdays, sponsored by Open at the Top International Spiritual Center, a covenanted community of the Centers for Spiritual Living. We've been here at the Heart Space every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. for the past 14 years. Please join us again next week as we continue our new class series based on The Infinite Way, a fantastic book and philosophy of Joel Goldsmith. If you'd like to contact me, please email me at drjim@drjimturnage.com. That's drjim, drjim, at drjimturnage.com. Peace and blessings to you all, and have a wonderful week.